Okay, so I'm really sorry for the gigantic gap in between the first two videos, but I've just been like super tired. I think it's just like pandemic blues. So, in order to like bribe myself to make a video today, I just like didn't get dressed or put in contacts or anything. So, I think like I'm getting old and my eyes just dry out really easily. So today we're going to talk about the pre-bolus. And the pre-bolus is like really, in my opinion, one of the most important things you can do to increase your time in range and decrease your A1C and just make sure, I know we all like tend to struggle with those post-meal blood sugar spikes. So a pre-bolus is the act of giving yourself your insulin X amount of time before you eat. So I know for a long time, I used to give myself my boluses like after I ate or while I was eating. And there are certain situations where this makes sense. Like maybe you're not sure if you're going to eat everything, or you're at a restaurant and you just don't trust that they're going to bring it out in time and nobody's got time to wait 15 minutes. But most of the time, it would be advised to give yourself insulin prior to eating to really stop that post-meal blood sugar spike, which can be very significant and can often just like hang out depending on how insulin resistant you are. You know, that can put you in a not so great place for a longer time than you want to be in. So pre-bolus is just a way to give yourself insulin, to give the insulin a head start to hit your bloodstream at the same time that the food does. So like what we'll first talk about is when you are a type 1 diabetic, you do not make endogenous insulin. So endogenous insulin is the insulin that the pancreas puts out itself. And endogenous insulin is very obviously more effective than the insulin that we inject ourselves with because it's inside our body already. It goes to the bloodstream very quickly, and that way, you know, you can eat a Krispy Kreme donut and really not see much or any of a blood sugar spike, because if your pancreas is working and giving you the insulin that you need, it works very quickly and you don't get that blood sugar spike. As you start to stop making that endogenous insulin in type 1 diabetes, or over the progression of type 2 diabetes where you're very resistant to insulin and towards the end stop making any insulin yourself, that's when we have to start using exogenous insulin. So the closest thing we have to endogenous insulin is the rapid acting insulin analogs. So these are Novolog, Humalog, and Apidra. There are also two like super rapid acting insulins out on the market right now, and those would be Fiasp and Lumjev. And I'm sure by the time you're watching this video, maybe there's some other ones coming out, and I know in some other countries there may be some different. There's like Nova Rapid. I'm not really sure the stats on that one, but I know the one we're very familiar with is like Humalog and Novolog. So when you're looking at insulin, you want to look at the onset time of the insulin, which is when it starts working in your body, and then the peak of the insulin is the time it takes to reach its max potency. And then the duration is how long it takes for the insulin to wear off in your body. So that's an important piece of information to consider, so you don't give yourself like a bunch of extra insulin when you still have some inside of your body. But for pre-bolusing, we really want to look at the onset and the peak time. So with rapid acting analogs like Humalog and Novolog, they are going to generally hit your bloodstream 10 to 15, or the onset is 10 to 15 minutes. You won't see like a mega drop at this time. We kind of want to hit like the peak of where we need to be in terms of the pre-bolus. So the onset is 10 to 15 minutes, and then the peak effect is in 1 to 2 hours after we've injected that insulin. So the super rapid acting insulins, their onset time, they're going to hit you much quicker because of the certain, like Bloomjev molecularly is different than Humalog and Novolog in a way that makes it enter your bloodstream more quickly. And Fiasp is Novolog with, I think it's vitamin B, but it's additives that vasodilate your blood vessels and can suck up that insulin much more quickly than Humalog and Novolog. So with those two insulins, you may not want to pre-bolus. It just depends on your body, but because they hit you much quicker in 5 minutes, they have like a similar peak as well, but they're going to hit you much quicker than the Novolog and the Humalog. So just consider that when we're talking about pre-boluses. A pre-bolus is meant to match when the food hits you and the peak insulin time. So it's like a scale. So we have insulin on one side of the scale and carbs on the other side of the scale. And we want them to balance each other out. And that's going to give us that beautiful, straight, steady, possibly a tiny little slant up, but for the most part, a straight and steady CGM line, if that's what you're using. So if we eat the carbohydrates and then bolus afterwards, those carbs are going to hit your bloodstream on the side of the scale before that insulin, and you're going to get a blood sugar spike. That's where that usually will come from. So if you don't time it correctly and the carbs hit first, you're going to go high. If you give your insulin maybe too early, so maybe you thought you were going to eat something, you get distracted, and then you eat like 40 minutes later, you're probably going to see a drop because that insulin is going to hit the scale first before you see the rise. So our goal with a pre-bolus is to just make sure that they hit at the same time and we don't see any variability or unpredictable slopes and weird things going on. So usually the recommended pre-bolus time to start with is 15 minutes. So you give yourself 15 minutes before you eat, and ideally then the carbs and the insulin will hit at the same time and it'll be great. Unfortunately though, as you know, diabetes is very unpredictable. So consider with those time that time may change based off your individual body. So if you digest a lot more quickly, you may only need to pre-bolus like 10 minutes or not pre-bolus at all. Some people just don't need to. Or if you're like me and you're like a lot more insulin resistant, sometimes I need to do up to 20 to 30 minutes of a pre-bolus just for my own personal body. You'll also want to consider like your time of the month if you are a girl, or if you're a guy or a girl and you're going through puberty, your hormones are going to be adding resistance to your body. Same with pregnancy. So anytime you have those hormone fluctuations, your pre-bolus time is also going to change pretty significantly. If you have gastroparesis, which means that you have very delayed gastric emptying, or it's very unpredictable, we don't want to pre-bolus because usually your food is going to take forever to get out of your stomach. So that's something you'd want to talk to your healthcare provider about. And then the type of carb will also affect pre-bolus time. So if I'm going to eat cereal, which is straight up glucose, I'm going to need like a 30-minute pre-bolus personally, because those carbs are going to hit really fast. So I want to give the insulin a very large head start. I want to see that down arrow before I even start eating the cereal. And where your blood sugar is will make a difference too. As our blood sugar gets higher, we become more resistant to insulin. So if you're in like the 180s or something before you eat, you're going to want to possibly increase that pre-bolus time from what you normally would do. Then, of course, medication. So if you are using Symlin or Victoza or Trulicity or Ozempic, any of those medications that keep the food in your stomach longer, you may not need a pre-bolus. You may be giving yourself dose after you take those medications. Again, talk to your doctor about it and see kind of what works for you if you are on one of those medications. Tips for pre-bolusing, because it can be a pain in the butt. Like, I want to eat usually. So if you are the kind of person that has a routine, anchor your habits to the new behavior you want to start. So let's say when you're sitting on the toilet tinkling when you wake up and you know you're about to go throw a breakfast burrito in the microwave, give yourself your pre-bolus at that time on the toilet every time. Just do it. Or for me, because I don't have much of a routine, if I'm making my coffee, that's when I pre-bolus. Because usually after I make my coffee, I'm going to want to eat. So that's kind of like the trigger for me. I also make sure to use a timer because 15 minutes always feels a lot longer when we're hungry. So a timer is really going to be your best friend. So if you're cooking or something like that, I'll usually have the timer go off 15 minutes before the food's ready to remind myself to pre-bolus, and then I do another 15-minute timer to take out the food, and then I'm all ready to go. You can also like eat a salad or drink water, or just eat the non-starchy, non-carbohydrate portion of your meal first and do that very slowly, just so that you're at least doing something, especially if you're going out to eat with somebody, you don't want to sit there for 15 minutes. Try eating like a side salad first or drinking your entire glass of water. This will also help you feel fuller and you won't overeat, so that's a perk. But you can use that time to let the insulin kick in as well. Just want to offer to you all, I'm doing a 5-day challenge. So it's 5 days to in-range blood sugars after you eat. It's a bolus busters experience for everybody. But we'll talk a lot about pre-boluses and how other macronutrients affect your blood sugar so that we can really work towards having in-range after meal blood sugars, because I know that's a pain and it's like an art. We could write a whole book about it. So I will link below where you can go to sign up for that. It's free, and I'll just email you. We got a Facebook group. I'll email you all the goodies and freebies and fun stuff, and we'll just learn a bunch together and eat a bunch of good food. If you're interested in signing up, go to www.givemesomesugar.coach/bolusbusters. All right, I will see you in the next video.